I'm Daniel Reese.
And I'm Clara Monroe.
And welcome to The Neutral Ground.
You know, we have to talk about what is happening over on the Korean Peninsula.
We really do.
This is not some, far-off current events thing. This is a five-alarm fire with global implications. And frankly, the lack of mainstream attention is infuriating.
It's absolutely infuriating. We are looking at a situation where armed North Korean soldiers, about 10 of them, just crossed the military demarcation line into South Korean territory.
Armed
and wearing bulletproof vests. This isn't some kind of accident.
Right.
This is a deliberate provocation, a terrifying escalation.
We've been looking at the initial news reports on this incursion.
Yeah.
And what's clear is the timing and the nature of this act are deeply disturbing.
Deeply disturbing.
It happened around 5 o'clock local time on Tuesday, April 8th in the eastern part of the DMZ.
Right.
The South Korean military responded with warnings and shots.
Thank God.
Thankfully, these thugs retreated.
Yeah.
But let's not downplay what this means.
Not really not.
The DMZ.
The DMZ, for anyone who isn't constantly living in fear of global conflict, is a 155-mile-long, 2.5-mile-wide strip of land, absolutely choked with an estimated 2 million landmines.
My God.
It's one of those heavily fortified borders on the planet. This isn't like wandering into the wrong backyard.
Right.
This is an armed crossing.
And to try and frame this as anything less than intentional is naive at best and dangerously irresponsible at worst. Last June, there was a similar incident, but those North Korean soldiers were carrying construction tools.
Right.
The South Koreans rightly chalked that up to a possible accidental crossing. This time, weapons and body armor, that's a statement.
Yeah, that's a chilling statement, especially when you factor in the already sky-high tensions in the region. North Korea has been on a tear with missile tests showcasing their rapidly advancing capabilities.
Right.
Remember that hypersonic missile test back in January?
Yes.
That's technology designed to evade our defenses.
And it's not just saber rattling. They're actively in bed with Putin's brutal regime. We're talking about North Korea deploying special operations units to fight for Russia in Ukraine. That's a direct alignment with a fascist state waging an illegal war. This isn't just about North Korea, it's about a growing axis of authoritarianism.
It really is. And the rhetoric coming out of Pyongyang is insane.
It's terrifying.
Kim Jong Un's sister has been threatening the U.S. with retaliation just for the possibility of U.S. aircraft carrier being deployed to South Korea.
Yeah.
They portray any defensive measures from our side as aggression while they continue their own destabilizing actions. The hypocrisy is galling.
Then you have the supposed diplomatic genius, Donald Trump, back in office claiming he wants to revive talks with North Korea. Pyongyang isn't even playing along. They've actually stated that U.S. hostility has deepened since his inauguration. His ego-driven, ill-informed approach to foreign policy has consistently made the world a more dangerous place.
Absolutely. Let's not forget those ballistic missile firings in March, immediately following the joint U.S.-South Korea military drills Freedom Shield. Of course, Pyongyang predictably labeled them as rehearsals for an invasion. So we're trapped in this endless cycle of North Korean aggression met with defensive drills, which then provoke more North Korean aggression. This terrifying feedback loop with potentially catastrophic consequences.
But here's a crucial element that makes this moment particularly volatile. South Korea is in a state of utter political chaos. President Yoon was just ousted after trying to impose martial law.
Martial law.
Martial law in a democracy. Now they're facing a snap presidential election on June 3rd. This leadership vacuum creates a perfect storm of instability.
Think about it. You have this incredibly tense, heavily militarized border, and one side is reeling from a major political upheaval.
Yeah.
The other side is led by an unpredictable dictator with a growing arsenal and a clear disregard for international norms. This is precisely the kind of environment where miscalculations can lead to irreversible consequences.
And Kim Jong Un isn't acting alone. His military ties with Russia are strengthening. We're seeing the formation of a dangerous alliance between two rogue states, both actively challenging the international order. This isn't just a regional issue anymore. It's a component of a much larger global power struggle against democratic values.
And Trump's return to the White House throws an even bigger wrench into the works. His first term was marked by erratic and ultimately failed attempts at diplomacy with North Korea.
Yeah.
Now he's back, seemingly intent on repeating the same mistakes, despite North Korea's complete lack of interest. His unpredictability is a major threat to stability in the region.
Yeah.
Will he issue more bizarre threats?
Right.
Will he make rash concessions? No one knows, and that uncertainty itself is dangerous.
What's particularly concerning is how this border incursion aligns with North Korea's support for Russia's war.
Oh, yeah.
They're testing the waters, probing for weaknesses, seeing how far they can push while global attention is partially diverted to Ukraine. Their increasingly sophisticated missile technology is their leverage, a way of saying, we're a serious threat and you have to take us seriously. This isn't just about the Korean Peninsula, it's about a coordinated effort by authoritarian regimes to undermine global security.
And let's not ignore the economic devastation Trump's policies are already inflicting. His new tariffs on South Korean goods have triggered a significant economic crisis in Seoul. The stock market has plummeted, and they've had to implement emergency financial measures.
Unbelievable.
So not only is South Korea politically vulnerable, but now their economy is taking a massive hit thanks to American protectionism under a Republican administration that claims to support our allies. It's a betrayal.
When you connect all these dots, you see a truly terrifying picture.
You really do.
A nuclear-armed North Korea, emboldened by its alliance with Russia and its own advancing military, a politically and economically destabilized South Korea, and an unpredictable United States under a leader who seems more interested in pandering to dictators than upholding democratic alliances. This isn't just a crisis, it's a potential catastrophe in the making.
The crucial question we have to ask ourselves is this DMZ incursion an isolated incident, a minor flare-up that will quickly be forgotten? Or is it the first sign of a much larger, more dangerous conflict?
I think we know the answer to that.
Given everything else that's happening, the missile tests, the Russian alliance, the instability in South Korea, it would be dangerously naive to dismiss this as insignificant.
It's not insignificant. It's a blaring alarm. A heavily armed border, a rogue state with nuclear ambitions, a neighboring country teetering on the brink of political and economic collapse, and a global landscape increasingly defined by the resurgence of authoritarianism. The potential for a catastrophic miscalculation here is enormous, and the consequences are unthinkable.
We said it at the beginning, and it bears repeating. This demands our immediate and unwavering attention.
Absolutely.
We cannot afford to look away, to treat this as just another Korean Peninsula squabble. The stakes are far too high. This isn't just about regional security. It's about global peace and stability.
Exactly. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about facing a clear and present danger. It's about understanding the convergence of these incredibly alarming events and demanding that our leaders, whoever they may be, approach this with the urgency, the seriousness, and the diplomatic skill that has been so desperately absent.
Think about this. The world's most heavily armed border has just become the stage for an armed incursion.
Wow.
Happening against a backdrop of profound political chaos.
Right.
And escalating global tensions fueled by right-wing extremism and authoritarianism. What happens when one of these volatile actors, emboldened by their own power and the weakness of others, makes a move that cannot be undone?
Stay informed, stay outraged, and for God's sake, stay strong.
I'm Daniel Reese.
And I'm Clara Monroe. And if you want to support the work that we do, head over to patreon.com/the neutral ground and become a patron, because we can't do this without you.
That's right. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.